live. Yeah, it doesn't catch up for about a minute, so I'll just check that we are live. And we are. 2021, here we come.
All right.
Good to see you again, Mark, of course.
Always great to be here on a Friday, my time, Saturday morning, your time in Australia. So it's always great. Great way to end my week and great way to kind of come down for you.
It's another, actually I was going to ask, I didn't ask you how your weather is, but it's another beautiful day here on the Sunshine Coast. Is it sunny there?
Well, it's been a little bit overcast today, but it's about 68 F or 20 Celsius here. So not too bad. That's for November, end of November. No rain or anything.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. That's good. So topic today, 2021, here we come. It's been a funny year, I have to say. We probably should do a quick recap on the year. And actually, I was going to ask, how have your clients coped with 2020?
You know, it's been amazing to watch. And I've got a lot of clients, a lot of past clients, a lot of currently enrolled clients. And then I made a real effort in January, late January. I could see that this COVID thing was going to turn into something pretty serious because I have friends that are in manufacturing in China, and they were emailing me and letting me know what was going on in China that we hadn't received yet. So I started tracking stuff third week of January, and I started a LinkedIn campaign specifically to connect with business owners of $1 million to $10 million businesses where the owners are still active in their business, all industries, all geographies in the US, somewhere outside the US as well, but for the most part, I would say 90% was US. And the whole purpose of this was to be able to connect and have conversations with them and find out what was happening in their geography and their industry. Was it affecting them? Were they being locked down? What was happening, on the ground? Yeah. And the reason I was doing it was because this has been so politicized that you really can't tell from any of the media sources, whether it's Fox or CNN or MSNBC or anybody. There is so much bias and there's so much going on that when you talk to the people that are actually on the ground, you'd think that you were on a different planet. Yeah. So between the middle of March and the first week of November, I'd had over 450 conversations with all different size companies and tremendous amount of input into that. Got some consulting clients out of it.
Yeah, but that's
surprising.
That's a great thing to do because it's ear to the ground type stuff. That this is like, and this is funny. I know that we just before the call we were talking about target market, finding that, but this is the work that people don't want to do.
Yes, exactly.
And the value of talking to 450 people, incredible. Yeah.
And the thing about it is that it comes to, I came to that with the understanding that anytime that somebody reaches out to me, I can pretty much guarantee that I'm going to get pitched. And so when I contacted them, I would say, I'm a professional, I'm a business coach for companies between $1 million and 10 million. I have nothing to pitch, nothing to sell, nothing to buy. I'm simply reaching out to you professional to professional to find out what's happening in your industry and your market. And I'm doing this with 450 other people. On my LinkedIn campaign, I've connected now with 6,800 business owners of $1 to $10 million companies. So now I've got all of these people that meet my target market that have been familiar with me now because I've reached out and I'm feeding them information and I'm giving them insight and what's working in certain areas and what's not working, what to be careful of. And here in the States, you've got huge number of states that are completely open. There's no mask requirement. People are going about their business and life's okay. And then you've got completely shut down areas like where I live. They just put in a 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew starting this weekend, going through the end of December. Everybody's in the purple category, which is like the out of control category. And it's just everybody's scared. They're uncertain about the future. And that brings us to what our discussion is today about, what's 2020 look like and how do we deal with it, with all of this uncertainty about us.
Yeah, it's interesting. I put a post up yesterday or the day before and just giving an outline of one of my clients and just the growth that I've seen there. But what I said in that post was really for me in these times, and really when any client comes to me, most clients will come to you and say, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? What do I need to do? And for me, it's more a case of, okay, what are you doing and what do you need to eliminate? So, and in the post I was saying about how for me, in these tough times, I actually slow down. I slow down to think.
You have to. And the process that I use that has worked brilliantly, and I've done this for years, is that anytime we're in a state of disruption, and that could be weather disruption, economic disruption, any unexpected series of events that show up. It could be flood, fire, whatever, break-in in the building, whatever that disruption is, it's unexpected. In that state of unexpected disruption, our mind goes into fight or flight, and we're seeing all of this sensory intake around us that we're trying to take in and make sense of. And we feel that this is chaos because we don't know what we're looking at. We don't know what we're feeling. And so the process that I always go through is very simple. I assume chaos. I slow the thinking down so that we can look into the chaos to see what the pieces are, what's important and what's not important. So that once we slow it down and we can see the factors that are going on here, we can eliminate the noise and focus on the signal, which are the important things. Then we go for clarification. Of these things that we see in here, how do we prioritize them from most important to least important, the most positive effect to the least positive effect?
It's interesting. I'm chatting with my clients and we're having this discussion just on Tuesday. We have our weekly catch up with all the group there. And, a few weeks back, I asked them, what's the most valuable thing I do? And they said, you allow us to slow down and simplify. And
that's
more so support them with permission to do that, because it goes against the natural kind of conversation out in the marketplace. But the key thing on Tuesday, we were going through numbers, like what are the actual critical numbers, instead of looking at everything. And we're talking about momentum actually, because a lot of our guys, or my guys, have got great momentum this year. They've built their businesses this year, and they were talking about, that feeling of, you want to celebrate, it's Christmas, you want to take time off, but at the same time, that's the best time to push forward even further. Most people settle back and lose their momentum. I was talking to them about just pushing forward on that momentum. But from that perspective, having key, critical numbers in front of you so that you can see what is actually up and down or going sideways or stopping.
Right.
And when you break it down to the very simple and you have key numbers in front of you, business becomes very simple.
And this super important part, that simplification is the third step. So it's chaos, slow the chaos, clarify, simplify, and then accelerate. And accelerate is compressing the simplification and accelerating the outcome of that. And I think the thing that's really important, James, and we've talked about this in other conversations that we've had, I'm a geek. I'm an 80-20 geek. I'm obsessed with 80-20.
Yeah.
And I've done such deep analytical work around it, way deeper than most people have even thought about possible. But when we talk about simplifying, and we're talking about making sense of the chaos and clarifying, look at the clarification as 80-20. Pick the 20% that are going to make the biggest difference, that are going to make 80% of the difference out of 20% of the events that are taking place, and then simplify those 20%. And then life gets really easy because now you've got the KPIs to measure the most effective areas that are having an impact on you.
Yeah,
It sounds so simple, you know, and
it sounds simple, and look, this is where I find clients, or not even clients, but prospects are often caught in thinking it's simple, but not actually allowing themselves to get outside kind of perspective. And we talked about this with in last week's conversation around diversity of thought.
right.
Most people will see it as easy because it looks easy, but never get the outside perspective to actually implement. They'll get caught in that thinking it's easy, but they're actually caught in the busyness of the day-to-day.
And in fact, we're inherently hardwired to make it complicated, right?
Yeah.
So here we've just gone through this big exercise to simplify everything. We've identified how we're going to measure it, right? So it's like, this is really simple, but it is not easy. Simple and easy are not necessarily linked. And the reason the easy falls away is because we've been raised with this work hard, get ahead mentality, which means that we're looking to make it harder than it has to be. We've got to change our behavior to embrace the easiness.
Yeah, I think that's probably a program running in the background of our mind that we need to complicate. We need to make things harder. That's just the natural way. You know, when I talk to people and they kind of say to me, "Oh, I'm busy," for me, it's an instant red flag.
Exactly.
Like instant red flag. They don't have the clarity to actually implement strategically, you know, right thing, right time. You know, if you're constantly busy, if you're constantly running, how can you be operating strategically and implementing what you need to have in place? Like those things are red flags. And just, you know, we were talking about how, you know, heading into 2021, like now, and this is what I was saying to my guys, it's like, don't lose the momentum, but slow down. Like really look at the numbers, really look at what's working and what's not working. Amplify what's working. Don't worry about coming up with new ideas. Slow down so that you can keep enhancing, keep multiplying what's actually working, instead of just going, oh, there's a new year coming, I've got to add more things, I've got to add more books, I've got to add another list of, you know, New Year's resolutions to the pile. For years now, for a lot of years now, I haven't actually done New Year's resolutions in that same way. It's been more of a eradication, you know, just constantly removing, simplifying down and down and down. And it's like business is becoming easier, growth is becoming easier.
You've adopted my philosophy of inverse growth.
Yeah, and I know we've talked about that one before on the, you know, on this as well. And you know, that's in my nature as well. It's just to be able to do less and actually create more, and not in a kind of a, you know, I want to say in a wanker way where it's all about the money. It's not all about the money. It's about the lifestyle.
Right.
You know, people say, oh, you know, I'll get to that, but they never get to that.
They never get to it.
And they find themselves, oh, I'm 60, 50, whatever it might be, years old, or they've been in business 5 years and they're in a really good place. They want to go to a certain point and they say, yep, we'll put that off now. We're going to get to that. And versus just knuckling down for a year or 2 years. I find most businesses can completely transform and accelerate at an astronomical rate within 2 years.
Oh, it doesn't even take 2 years. I mean, it could take 2 months. You know, if you pull the right levers, you can have radical improvement.
Oh yeah, people with the right assets in place can.
Oh my gosh, I've seen 50 times revenue increase in a year. You know, I've worked with companies twice now that had more than a $50 million increase in top line sales in 12 months or less. And if you've never been part of an organization that's growing at $4 million a month in month over month revenue, it is a rocket ride.
I can imagine.
It's if you're not prepared for it, it can be intense.
And that,
I wanted to clarify one thing is that, people may be watching this or will be watching this in the future that don't know what our conversation was about the inverse growth law.
hmm,
And my inverse growth law is if I grow my business, I work half as hard. If I grow my business 4 times as much, I work 1/4 as hard. If I
yeah,
grow my business 10 times, I'm working 1/10 as hard. And
yeah,
the initial reaction I get when I share that with folks is, that's not possible. You can't do that.
can't be
And
done.
the answer is, you absolutely can. If you look at the billionaires of the world, they don't work nearly as hard as most blue collar and most white collar workers do.
The bigger piece of this is it is almost your job, your mission, your purpose to actually work out how you can do that.
Exactly.
Otherwise, you're never gonna reach your potential. You can't do enough there's 24 hours in the day. You can't do enough to grow bigger unless you work out how to achieve, get a greater result with less effort.
Exactly. And I think the key thing here is that the red flag for both of us is when someone says they're so busy that they can't talk to us. That just tells me that they're burning hours, and that's time that they will never get back in their life.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest things, the most powerful things that you and I can do for our clients and for mankind in general is to give them a better understanding and appreciation for the time that we have here on earth. None of us are going to make it out of the law. None of us are going to make this out of here alive.
No, we all die, and we all, it's how you're going to live. And I have this conversation a lot with my clients, and I've got one client at the moment and they're all going really well, but I've got one client at the moment, and he's just a young guy. So business is it's only what he's been told, and he's taking on board what I've been saying. And each time I see him, we do Zoom calls Tuesdays. Each time I see him, he looks a little bit more relaxed and a little bit more confident.
Nice.
And, it's not easy though. This is the biggest, that kind of two sides of the same coin, simple and easy. It's not easy. It's not easy from a thought perspective.
Yes.
It's hard to get your head around being way more efficient, like you say, 10 times more efficient and doing 1/10 of the work.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to get your head around. But if you really, that's the only thing we have to do in life.
And I think, one of the things that we have a tremendous responsibility for is to meet our clients on their personal journey where they are in their journey.
100%.
You and I both have decades of experience, and we've worked with really big companies, and we've worked with startups, and we've worked with nonprofits, and we've worked with all the spectrum of enterprises and organizations. And I've absolutely come to learn that everyone wants to be someplace that they're not, right? They're not happy where they are. They want to be someplace else, but they're not prepared mentally or physically or psychologically to make the transition to where they want to be. They want to magically Star Trek transport to this new universe at some point in the future. But the reality is we have to get from where we are today to where we want to be. And how we guide our clients on that journey is our responsibility.
I had another post from a client, another quote from a client come through this week, and I posted that up as well. And it was and he was saying, "Oh my God, thank you. When I came to you, you were saying, don't build a 7-figure business, build a 6-figure business, and the 7-figure business will come."
Build a 6-figure business, right, and the 7-figure business will just appear.
Yeah, and it has. For him, it has. And the thing is, everyone's in such a rush, but it's like, no. It's actually, it really is simple. And it's such a hard thing it really is simple to do, but it's not easy.
It's not easy. There's a lot of detail. There's a lot of blanks in between. And a lot of times what looks like an easy shortcut can do
Yeah.
serious damage.
Like, to your point earlier about meeting the client where they are, that's the whole reason, like in my book, of the perfect day exercise. It's finding out where they actually want to be.
Shameless plug.
Yeah, shameless plug, shameless
Yeah.
plug. But it really is like, where do you want your day? Like, how do you want your day to, like, I had a guy, he's not a client at the moment. I'm just chatting back and forth on Facebook with him. And he sent me his perfect day the other day. And I said, great work. Now go and implement the things that you need to do to actually start living that. It's not about just writing it down and wishing it, this is what most people do. They'll write down, I want a red Ferrari and blah, blah, blah. And then they'll just dream about it, instead of actually going, okay, what's it cost? How much is rego going to be? What's insurance going to be?
How do those seats feel? How does the steering wheel feel in my hands?
Yep.
How many people have dreamt about owning something, and then when they get it, it's like, wow, this isn't what I thought it was going to be like.
It's funny.
They're not prepared. They're not prepared.
How many people want a Ferrari but have never test driven one?
Exactly my point. Exactly my point.
It's the first thing I did. I started thinking about a Tesla a few months ago, and I went straight to Brisbane, drove the thing, and it was okay. I don't know if I really want it that bad now. It's like sometimes you really don't want what you think you want.
Well, I can tell you they accelerate fantastically well.
You do that. It was a little bit of fun, but it probably wasn't my dream car. Now, after driving it, it was like, that's not amazing, not what I thought it was going to be. And nothing against the car. It was a beautiful car. It was actually very nice, and did have great pickup. But sometimes you've got to test drive the dreams you want. And as we're talking about leading into 2021, it's like maybe now's the time to test drive a few things. And I don't mean just cars. I mean, types of business, selling models,
whether your business, if you've been in business for yourself and you've been in business for a number of years, 2020 was like knocking it off the track. We got to get the business back on the track, if the track even exists. There's industries where we have derailed that industry. It's never coming back.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really worry about the airline industry and the travel industry, the event industry,
yeah,
concerts, all of those large public gatherings, professional football, professional sports. That model may be permanently broken.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, like the airlines. Like that's a model where unless you're one of the bigger ones, you're going under. Unless you're like Apple and got plenty of cash in the bank. Like you look at someone like Qantas. Qantas has got plenty of cash in the bank. They can ride out the kind of the slow period. But if you were
You're like Ryanair or one of the discount airlines, Allegiant or one of these guys, how in the heck do you maintain your safety and maintenance levels when you're out of cash?
Well, that's the thing. Like even Virgin,
we're going to die.
Virgin Blue here in Australia went under.
Yeah,
and
I think they went under worldwide.
Yeah, and I think they've been bought, but that's an opportunity for someone that sees something bigger. But that's still a long-term play, and you need a lot of cash to actually move, like keep that moving. And most small businesses don't have cash. This comes right back around to profit first every single time, where if you have the cash reserves, and it's amazing. Like I talk to that 1 to 10 million, probably $1 to $6 million range business most of the time, up to 10 million. And it's amazing how many people don't have any cash in the bank.
Oh, it's crazy.
Absolutely. Like for a business,
payroll,
like no money system in place, no cash reserves, no bank accounts full of extra money just sitting there, just playing, it's phenomenal. Like for a $5 to, even a $2 million, $1 million, even a $500,000 business, not to have cash reserves.
Well, a $500,000 business, you should have at least $40,000 of cash in the bank at all times. That's a month of overhead. A month of overhead is nothing when you're shutting down for 3 months at a time under COVID, right? So I'm telling my guys, start planning on a 6-month accumulation of your overhead and start looking at your overhead numbers that you can scale up or scale down if we have to close, or with whether you can stay open or not, and under what conditions. And that means that we have to look at our business and say, is our business even viable under these conditions? Can we even do it under these conditions?
That's probably a good place to start. We kind of had a little bit of a backtrack there, into 2020, but into 2021, money management system is really the first thing. It's the first thing I do with all the new clients.
Right.
It's like, where are the cash levels now? What can you actually sustain and build?
Right.
It's.
I've got a.
I was going to say, for everyone out there listening, like, if you don't have a money management system in place, it's time you looked at it, like, for real, because you're not building a real business if you don't have cash reserves.
That's exactly right. All it takes is one major disruption and you can be out of business, especially when you're short on cash. If you've got a loan with a bank, those banks have triggers built into their terms of the loan that say that if your credit changes because you've missed payments or whatever, there's automatic interest escalators. There's options to call the loan. This happened in 2009, 2010. People started getting behind because the economy dropped and their interest rates went from 7, 8, 9% to 29% because of these automatic escalating triggers. And then they couldn't expand their credit line to make their payments, and they ran out of cash, and boom, they're out of business. And there's no way. I mean, these are like 20 and 30-year-old businesses.
Yeah. And it's, it goes right back to our schooling, where we're not taught, money management from the beginning. And it's, it's kind of, it's sad to see in older businesses. It's sad to see in bigger businesses, especially kind of like we operate in kind of the consulting space where we have little overhead, but in a real business, you've got real overhead. And you go 1 or 2 months without income, and that's going to hurt.
And I think coming out of the COVID situation here in the States, commercial real estate is in a world of hurt right now, because all these big office buildings and Facebook with 2 million square feet, and they're finding out they work just as well remotely as they do with this fantastic multi-billion-dollar campus. I mean, Apple just built the spaceship that was $5 billion, and there's nobody in it. There's nobody in it.
Can you imagine?
And Apple is doing just fine, thank you very much.
But
over $2 trillion valuation. When I looked at it 2 days ago, I don't know what it did today, but they were doing just fine.
They're cash heavy. They're in a good situation, but it's like every single business should be in that cash heavy situation. And that's really the point I'm trying to make. It's like, whether you're turning over $80,000 a year or 800,000 or 800 million, there's a proportion there that needs to be cash in the bank. And yet, it's the same here in Australia. Everyone has huge debt, living off credit cards, no savings, and your business just can't run like that.
No.
Or not. Well, it can, week to week.
Well, and as long as business is good, that cash flow cycle keeps going on. It's like musical chairs. As long as the music is playing, people keep walking around. And if they take one chair away or 2 chairs away, you're not going to notice it until the music stops. And then it's like, hey, there's no place for me, and you're done. Yeah,
that's the thing. With a good cash management system, the gap between kind of going, well, the time period, you get a reprieval if something goes wrong. The time period gets longer each week, each month, really. And if the business is growing, that period gets longer and longer and longer really quickly. with a proper system in place. And that's one thing I've noticed about Profit First for all my guys. They've been able to implement Profit First and had those cash reserves come about really quickly because it's such a simple system to implement. And once you start doing it, money accumulates really quickly. It's just that we don't.
Especially if you were cash flow positive to begin with.
Yeah.
So you and I both tend to focus on working with successful businesses as opposed to fixing broken businesses. They're broken for a reason.
Yeah.
And if somebody's successful, they want to get more success faster.
Yeah.
That's what we do, is we get more success faster with less friction.
So yeah, it's about simplifying and accelerating.
Yep.
Yeah. But okay, so money management, what do you see as the next step in 2021 people should be looking at?
For 2021, now is the time to say, okay, we've got 7 months, 8 months of this COVID thing behind us. Here in the States, it's going crazy. Numbers are going up, way up again. I'm seeing the same thing in Western Europe. So it looks like another wave of this is coming through. We don't know, though, really what's going on. And the reason I say that, it's not a conspiratorial thing, but I have 3 of my clients right now have COVID.
I've just found out one of mine's got it today.
Yeah. So three have gotten a positive test. One of them was asymptomatic, which was no symptoms at all, but tested positive. She went back and got tested 3 more times. So does that count as 3 new tests, or is it like confirming 1 positive test? So when you get 4 more, 3 more positives on an existing positive, how are they counting that? And nobody could give me an answer. She didn't know. The healthcare people didn't know. They're probably going, okay, how many positive tests do you have? How many tests did you administer? Those are the numbers. Yeah. And of course, the media and the pharmaceutical companies that are selling, vaccinations at $100 a pop, they're like, we want to know, we want as many illnesses as possible because we're going to make a shit ton more money, when people come to get these vaccines.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm seeing this over and over, is that when somebody tests positive, then they get 2 or 3 more tests to confirm, because the tests are only 50% accurate in the first place. So if somebody gets a positive test, then they get a negative test, then they take another test to see how that comes out. Now it's 2 out of 3, right? So it's just crazy. But The bottom line for businesses at this point is we've been through 8 months of this. We've seen it shut down. We've seen it open up. We've seen it starting to close down again. We're able to make decisions based on what we saw the first time through. And if a business has not at this point already done a serious SWOT analysis of their business, now is the time to do it. And the SWOT analysis is strengths, threats, opportunities, and weaknesses. And we've got to see what it is with COVID. I do a lot of work with the printing industry, and a huge number of the people in the printing industry are printing for like store displays and things like that, where you're putting perfume and makeup and things like that. Well, they switched all their production into PPE, personal protective equipment, and they started making face masks and regular masks to breathe through. And I've literally had companies that have downsized by 50% of what they were before COVID. They lost 95% of their core business, and yet they are profitable for the year because they pivoted into an area where the need existed in their existing markets.
Yeah, and this comes right back to where we started the conversation before we went live in ideal market. And like you say, money management, and then ideal target market, like the research, like continually doing the research, doing the SWOT analysis, doing the ideal target market research. It's not something you do once. It's a
ongoing,
constant.
It's a constant.
It's like you spent the year talking to 450 people. It's like that wealth of knowledge, like knowing the language, the problems they're dealing with, the just the little nuances of all of that, like that is worth, you know, it's worth millions of dollars, to be honest. I know that, you know, for me, like for myself, when a new client comes on board, I'm researching big time in their market, like to the point where I know it. I know their ideal client. I know what they eat for breakfast. I know exactly where to find the money in that industry because, you know, and this is the thing, people won't spend the time. And that's what I'm saying. You have to slow down, like just reminding people, slow down, take the time. And if you don't know how to find your ideal client, because I see a lot of that online. How do I find my ideal client? Is there a course? Is there something? No, just go and do the homework. Go and spend the time. There is no magic button answer. There isn't a printout that someone's going to give you that gives you your ideal client. It's about, you know, like kind of knuckle to the grindstone, like really, you know, getting in the dirty stuff and having the conversations, doing the research.
I think one of the biggest key factors here that I see as a commonality in almost everybody that I talk to is that they don't know the right questions to ask. And if you don't ask the right question, you're never going to get the right answer. So a big part of what my role is and what your role is to ask the hard questions that they've not considered. Because once we ask those questions, several things are happening. One is it's like cognitive dissonance. It's like a slap across the face. Like, where did that come from? I never even thought of that. I never even considered that. That's exactly the point. I want to slap you into reality so that you're aware. You're not going through life in some, you know, transfixed stupor like a zombie, just doing the same thing that you do over and over every day, getting the same mediocre results. I want you to be awake and looking around and saying, what does this mean? Where's the opportunity here? How can I serve?
I think this is probably, it's one of the biggest things I learned. You know, we both studied under Jeff Walker. It's one of the biggest things I learned from Jeff really was how to actually do that research effectively. And it wasn't hard. It was just had to be done. You know, it was that simple, easy thing again, you know, and it's very simple. People make it very hard though. They don't go, okay, I've just got to sit down and spend, like I'll spend 3 to 4 weeks, you know, and that just, like if I'm planning for a launch, I'll spend weeks just researching. And it's,
you have to.
It's not my favorite thing to do. I'll be 100% honest. I don't like it, but I know how valuable it is. Like it's worth millions of dollars. That spending a month is often worth $1 million to a client.
I live in that space. I mean, if you could say, okay, you know, you've broken the law and we're sending you to prison, but we're going to put you in the prison library for the next 20 years. I'd be like, yes, that would be heaven for me.
Yeah, I've got to say, it's not for me, it feels like hard work, but I just know that it has to be done. And so I take it as easy and it's just got to be done. And I think a lot of people look at it as hard. They think too much about it versus just going and having the conversations and just, you know, it's more curiosity than actually trying to find some magic answer. It's just being curious.
Exactly. And this is the whole thing is that I'm driven, obsessed with solving problems. You know, the movies I watch I love Sherlock Holmes because he's always in this problem and he's always being so aware and so perceptive on the little bit of, you know, ashes on the side of the guy's face or the fleck of paint that came off of the cathedral down the street. It's that level of awareness.
Speaking of ash on the side of the face, you would have seen Rudy Giuliani's dripping.
Yeah, what's that all about anyway?
I think it was his hairspray.
Something that looked terrible. It was whoever took that picture was like, this is money, man. I can sell this picture.
I'm going to fire up this one. Yeah,
I was just desperate.
But that's the thing. It's it's having that curiosity about your actual market. And this is where I think a lot of people go wrong. They think they want to give a market something that they thinks is a good idea, but they're not willing to go and do the research and find out what the market actually
What
wants.
the market wants.
They're not that passionate about what they do because they're not willing to dive deep and actually help people with a real need. They just want to sell something. They want to sell what they think is right.
Well, and that brings us to a really great point for consideration going into 2020. And that is
2021.
2021. I'm stuck in 2020, Groundhog's Day, right? Going into 2021, we have to be extremely careful and extremely aware of focus time. People's attention spans are becoming less and less and less. So whatever we do, have got to be broken down into 2-minute bite-sized chunks or less, right? I used to do 45-minute videos, and then I started doing 30-minute videos, and then they went down to 12 minutes, 10 minutes, and now they're down to 6 minutes. And if you look at what is in the timelines and everything else, it's 6 seconds to 2 minutes. So what do we do to engage somebody for 2 minutes? How can we distill and simplify our message so that it lands in 120 seconds? It's significant.
This is the exact importance of research. In the research, in spending the time, having the 450 conversations, you understand the person well enough to know the answer to what they actually want, what will actually engage them, what they will become passionate about in you.
And I think where a lot of businesses really fail is that they look at the market and go, this market needs this. And what the question should be is, what does the market want? The need and the want are two different things.
Yeah, I talk to a lot of business owners and they're closed off to anything else. You know, you'll ask them a question about their business. Maybe it's just, what's the open rates on your autoresponders? And they're 12%. And you can go, oh, well, that's great. You can actually improve that a lot, and they'll go, no, we can't. Our market, no, that's the top number. And that's,
we don't want to email them because people will unsubscribe.
Exactly.
Get them off the list. They're just taking up the spot for somebody that wants to buy.
I keep getting emails of people wanting to unsubscribe. It's like, why do you read them? It's it's funny. For one of my clients right now, I came into this market because I've dealt a lot in the real estate market with the autoresponders and stuff that we have set up now. I've never, you kind of go into this market going, okay, probably 20, 30% is the average. It's going to, that's topping out. I'm seeing autoresponder sequences receiving between 80 and 50% open rates across a dozen emails. Like, for me, that's unheard of.
That's engagement. That's engagement. And that's indicative of telling the story over time, meeting them on their journey.
It's
keeping them engaged. It's
part and parcel of me being open enough to do the research.
Yes.
To go deep enough to actually find what they want. And to be honest, I'm surprising myself with those numbers. And I'm still thinking, okay, well, what am I missing here? I've actually went back and I spent a few hours in their list manager yesterday going, okay, what are all the numbers here? What are they really telling me? Where's the missing number? Setting up little conversion tests even at 80% open rates, unheard of for me. And I was like, wow, I've still got to be open enough to, and this is where most people go, oh no, I'm at 16% open rate. That's the average for our market. That's where it tops out. It's like, no, dummy, you haven't done your homework well enough.
I remember back in the early days of Product Launch Formula, the first time that I really said, I'm going to do a launch. This was before you and I met. And I had technology at that time that was really advanced for the market. And there was a lot of people that wanted to know how to do it. And I'd never published anything about it. So I put together a course. And I started doing a pre-launch sequence that was educational. just the classic Jeff Walker, sideways sales letter.
Yep.
And I was getting 120% open rates. And I thought, how in the hell can you get 120% open rate? Well, it's super simple when somebody forwards the email onto somebody else and says, you got to look at this. And it was like, hey, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And it was a classic case of having something that people wanted, that it was different. They hadn't seen it before. They tried to do it on their own and got frustrated. They wanted the result, but they knew they couldn't do it. And we went on to do 103,000 in revenue on 21 days from the start of the concept to the money in the bank. And that included the video production, the scripting, the website. 3 weeks.
I've got to say,
I didn't even know how to edit video at the time.
how long was your card open period there?
3 days.
3 days. Okay. So how's this for a coincidence? My first launch, well, my very first launch, as you know, failed miserably. The client changed the sales page just before it went live, and we made $14. Well, probably lost a lot of money, to be honest. And he came back to me, chased me for a few months, paid me another huge fee, and we did it again. And we ran the exact same launch, and he stayed out of it this time, and we did $103,000.
Wow. That's when this stuff really works.
Yeah, yeah. It like the importance of just researching your marketplace.
Yeah.
Like coming back to it. I know we're kind of waffling off on different directions and tangents here, but just the importance, like for most people, if your money's in place and you can manage your money, just every year or every 6 months to go back to the drawing board and go, I don't know my market at all. It's been a year. What can I do? What forums can I check out? What books can I read? Who can I talk to? What clients can I talk to? How can I find out more about where my market is at today? But like just doing that at the start of 2021, or even now leading into 2021, would be an ideal time to do it, really, so that you can hit the ground running 2021 starting.
This is a great concept. And I think one of the things that most businesses really fail to understand at a deep level is that their business changes as time progresses. Now that sounds really obvious, but it's not. Because as a business grows and as a business moves with time, all the indicators are going up and down. And there are certain ranges where everything works perfectly. And as soon as you go below that range or above that range, it breaks the model.
Yeah.
And so they don't do enough experimentation to say, okay, what's our model look like with 200 students? What's our model look like with 500 students? What's our model look like with 2,000 customers?
Yeah.
And they're only looking at it like, if I could get a 7% increase, that'd be great. That's too close to where they are. They need to break the system in advance of it breaking so that they can see what I call brake lights on the freeway. What are the stress factors that are going to start showing up as the business grows, which are telling me in advance that things are about to break? And that this is one of the things that I focus on incredibly deeply, because as soon as the business breaks, and the business is going to break in 3 areas. It's either going to break in the value delivery system, which is what your service or product is that you're selling, the sales and marketing and lead generation system, or the finance, sales, and operating administrative part of the business. If any of those businesses fall behind, the growth of the company and the profit of the company will plateau. And it'll stay at that plateau until you fix it, and then it'll start growing again.
Yeah.
And so the whole idea here is anticipate the conditions that would cause you to flatline or plateau and solve those before you get to them.
Yeah. It's preempting change.
It's predictive analytics, right? On the computer side of it, that's what it is. You're predicting what the future is based on the previous trend.
Yeah, and going back to what I was saying earlier about my clients, we talked Tuesday about the critical numbers. It's like in a time when momentum is growing and you want it to continue, you must watch those. There are, like they said, there's that bandwidth where everything operates beautifully, and you've got to watch the numbers so that you're not heading out of
blow through it.
You're not blowing something up, or you're not killing something.
Right. I see this all the time where it's like, God, if we could just go out and sell Walmart. Don't even think about that. That will literally blow your business up and level it, and there'll be nothing. There'll be no survivors.
I had
don't go swimming out there where you're not familiar. It's a market that you're not suited for.
Yeah, I had a client this week that I had to pull the reins on. I was like, no more ideas, no more ideas. And he was cool with it. He was like, okay, I got it this time. I said, no more ideas. You don't need it. Just watch that little in between those two, kind of on the railroad tracks. Keep it on the tracks, and let it go up into the bush.
And keep it on the tracks. And this is where your guidance comes in, to say, okay, you can have a new idea when this, and this happens.
That's exactly what I said.
When take place, then I'll let you pick one more new idea to implement, but not until then.
It's 100% what I said to him. 100% what I said to him.
I can just hear you.
But yeah,
it's so obvious. It's so obvious to us, but it's not to the business owners, because they are a singular business and they're competing in a singular way in a marketplace.
Well,
we have the luxury of working with so many different companies all at the same time.
Yeah,
and we can gather that experience and knowledge and adjust it.
But it's that simple and easy thing again. They're caught in the thick of the, they're in the middle of the forest, looking up, going, where are we? And we get to look down upon it. That's having that outside perspective. And it's funny, some people won't invest in outside perspective, and you can see it in their business, because they do plateau, and they'll plateau for long periods of time. Some will spike, and that's great, because they'll kind of get to a point where they're fed up. And what I like to do is, kind of shortcut that plateau. It's like you've got to stabilize, you've got to hit a plateau and stabilize, make sure systems, processes, team, everything's ready, and then go again. I do it very kind of strategically and logically, but having outside perspective, that plateau becomes much shorter. And that's really the benefit of what we do for our clients, is like accelerate the growth by shortening the plateau, really.
Yeah, exactly. Shortening the plateau. And I think one of the things that I think about a lot, and again, I don't find business owners that think about this very much. They don't think about the journey, the customer journey. What is the engagement cycle with a client working with you? They come in and they start at X amount of money, and then they get some results, and then they elevate to a coaching program at this level, and they get more results. And then in year 3, it's like, we really want to step on it now. We want to focus on the net profit, not just the top line. So they step up to the next program and get a big result coming out of that. I'm looking at this going, how long did it take them from point A to point B, and what was the gain? How long did it take them to go from point B to point C, and what was the gain? Those are the key numbers I'm looking at, because once I start seeing performance over time, I can start using that to compare performance over time with other clients and say, businesses your size should be growing at this rate. Businesses your size get in trouble when they grow faster than this. Businesses your size end up cash starved when they grow under this profile. And those are the kinds of things that business owners don't think about. They just think about, we need more sales. We need to hire more people. We need new machines. They're doing a tactical response to a strategic challenge or strategic question.
Yeah, I see it a lot. And it's, I see that challenge there is really a personal mental challenge versus a strategic one, because with outside perspective, strategy, for growth is fairly simple. It's not rocket science, but it's more it's a personal mental challenge of, will I allow myself to change? Will I allow myself to shift gears and do different things in a totally different way? And this is the hardest piece for people, to learn, that I have to keep changing. I don't get to just go, oh, business is great, I've just got it to where I want it. I want 7 figures, but I don't want to change anything.
I have this conversation all the time, at least once a week. And what I remind people is, especially the guys, they've had
that's what I find. Guys, terrible. Women, fantastic at growth.
And the guys that I have this conversation with are like, well, I used to have this girlfriend and she was always trying to change me. And it's like the relationship would go nowhere because the guys wouldn't change and the women wanted to change them into something that they wanted, not what the guy was. So it's like, this is the same with businesses. I can't change your thinking. You have to change your thinking. Yeah. All I can do is provide the picture of what your future is going to be like under those conditions. You have to decide whether that's a future you want to live into or whether you want to change. Yeah. And we have these discussions before we ever engage or enroll anyone into a program, is because 80% or more of the people that want to work with me, I decline to work with because their head's not in the right place. I cannot help them. I'm not a magician. I can't wave a sorcerer's wand and poof, your life becomes great.
Yeah, it's funny. I've got a conversation coming up on Monday, actually, next Monday, with someone, and we've been chatting back and forth for a little while. And one of the first things I said to him was, look, I'm not here to sell anything. I'm here to help. If you want the help, if you're ready for that change, if you're serious. If you're serious, then I'm all in. But we need to have a conversation. And it's going to be very interesting because, he said a couple of things to me over the time there where I'm like, not quite ready yet. Famously, like I did this once with, and it's like, I did this with one of my earlier clients years ago, and he was referred to me through someone I know in the States. And I literally sent him away and gave him tasks to do for 6 months. Right. For 6 months, until he finally came back to me and he said, I've done it. I've done that last one. And I finally thought, you know what? He's been at this 6 months and he's actually achieved all the targets that I wanted him to do or told him to do. He's ready, and that's when he came on as a client. All the rest was just kind of free work that I was like, here, go do this, go do that.
But it's not free work, because what you've done. Hang on a second. It took him 6 months to do that. And then I would say at that point, why do you still want to work with me? You got the results, took you 6 months to do it. Would you be happier if you got those results in 6 weeks instead of 6 months? That's what I do. I get you the same results that you're just shown that you can do for yourself, but 10 times faster.
I was going to say, what
you do, because you simplified it. You removed the friction. Yeah. That's the beauty of simplification. Occam's razor, right? The simplest solution is the best solution. People can't simplify. They can't see it because they live in complexity.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like a lot of my clients, and even that client there that I was talking about, he came to me, he was earning probably $6,000 a month. This is a long time ago. Within the first month, he was at $42,000 a month. And that's the difference of perspective.
Exactly.
People are scared to pay for speed of results, which it blows my mind.
I had a client, the first year that I worked with this client, they had lost $330,000 that year up till that point. So they were basically burning $25,000 a month negative. and they said, we gotta pull out of this or we're not going to make it. And this is an old company, had been around for decades. And I did the analysis and I said, immediately stop doing business with all of these customers. Immediately stop doing business with them. Well, what happens? I said, no, just stop doing business with them. And they said, okay. They stopped doing business and their net profit increased by $57,000 the next month by not doing anything. It's because they were putting their time into something that was costing them money.
Yeah.
It was actually costing them money to do business with pain in the neck customers.
It's so interesting. Like,
it's insane.
Yeah. I mean, I've had so many clients like that. Classic one, lady coming to me, you know, super successful, comes to me with 22 products she wants to launch.
Oh God.
And I said, okay, cool. Like, yeah, and they were actually losing money at the time. And says, I want to launch all these products. You know, I want to make X amount. I said, look, just slow down for a minute. What's your flagship product here? Well, it was ABC product. And I said, you know, how often are you selling that? She said, oh, well, we're not actually selling that. We can't sell it for the price we want, and we think it's too hard to deliver. So, well, what price do you want for it? I want X amount. Cool. So sell it for that.
It'll never sell for that.
It'll never sell for that, of course.
Exactly. It's a self-limiting belief.
And, you know, it's like we got rid of the other 21 products. They focused on one product and immediately went to they were about 60 to 100 grand a month from losing money. Like the next month.
And they said, how did you do that? As far as we know, it's like magic.
But it's well,
it's not magic.
It actually is magic because you make a lot of things disappear to make another thing appear.
It's knowing what lever to pull, right? It's like, don't waste your time on this. You're not getting a result.
Yeah.
It's actually impeding your ability to do a great job because your time is being spent. It's called opportunity cost.
Can you imagine the chaos in your mind thinking you've got 22 products to launch and nothing working? Like that is like absolute. You may as well fold up the company and go sit on the beach and drink beer or something, because you're probably more effective drinking beer on the beach, you know, than having 22 products and not turning over a profit. But yeah, so I guess another good point for people looking into 2021 is, what's the one product? And as I say it, what's the one clear path?
The one thing.
What's the one clear path that you can follow? Like, what's the product? What is, like, after doing the research, what is the one product that is standing out? And it may need to be built. You may not have a product that suits what the market needs right now. And that's why you're having such shitty results. But 2021 is the time to go, okay, I've been getting shitty results for the last 3 years, or I've been at a plateau for the last 2 years or 2 months or 3 months. What's the product that actually has to be built or that I have on my shelf that has to be sold? Not the 5 products, not the 15 webinars, not the 6 events and all the rest of it. What's the one thing that people actually want? I think that's
one of the things that's real apparent to me is the fixation on selling a product or a service as opposed to a fixation on the result that you're delivering. It's a huge difference.
And focus on the result that you're delivering is a focus on what's the problem that needs to be solved.
Exactly.
Which comes back to the research again, versus what's my product and what do I want to sell, and I want to beat my chest because I know everything and I've got a big ego and what I do is best and you don't know because you're just the marketplace and I want your money.
You don't know anything. Oh, by the way, it's your money.
Exactly. That's actually pretty funny. That's a good way of looking at it. For a business owner to go, it's your money that you're losing by not actually doing the research. Because the markets are there. It doesn't matter what market you're in. There's a market there to give you money.
Right.
The fact that you're not picking it up is your own idiotic fault.
Well, and I go back. I started my real marketing education with Jay Abraham,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a fantastic experience with Jay because I was part of a group consulting program that went for 16 months.
Wow.
And there was 150 people in this. And I knew right away that after about week 12 to 16, that group was going to get down to next to nothing. And since this was a 16-month program, I was going to have a lot of one-on-one time with Jay. And that's exactly what happened. Wow. And the insights that you can get when you can pose questions to somebody like Jay that he can't answer, that the camaraderie and the collegiality, you go from being an apprentice and to someone that's almost like a protege or a colleague, yep. But in a different sense. I mean, there's nobody that's going to compete with Jay. But one of the things that Jay is so well known for is his theory of preeminence. Yeah. And preeminence is that if you have a solution in the marketplace, you have an obligation and a responsibility to share that with people that will benefit from your solution. And when my son was sick, there was no place that we could go until after he'd passed. I found a place that if I'd known about it 6 months earlier, 6 weeks earlier, he'd probably still be alive. Mm. And they hired me for sales training. And the salespeople were like, oh, well, we don't want to take people's money. We don't want to do this. We don't want to do that. And I said, listen, the reason I'm helping you is because you weren't here in my life and my son is gone because I didn't know that you were here. How can you live with that? How can you live with that?
It's another good point for looking into 2021, because I think a lot of people are scared to put themselves out there. And yeah, I'll call myself out first up. I'm not always out there. Oh, and out there in as much as I could be. But that's a big part of it. It's like, if you believe in your product and you know that you can help people, you should be screaming it from the rooftops. And if you've done your work, this is the thing, back it right up. You've got your money in place. You've done your homework on your ideal client. You've done your homework on delivery and the product and what to deliver. If you have that right, then it's like, as you say, or as Jay would say, like, it's your duty, an obligation to go and stand out on the street and scream it from the rooftops, because there's someone out there that does need it. And like in your case,
there's millions of people that need what we do.
Exactly.
And honestly, you're in the same situation that I'm in. We both worked with our good friend Kevin Nation years ago. And one of the things that really struck out in Kevin's work, another brilliant marketer, another brilliant thinker, is that I want to know who I'm working with. I want to know on a first name basis who my clients are. I'm not about creating a monstrous company with 100 employees and 10,000 customers that are faceless, nameless numbers on a spreadsheet. I want to know that James is my client, or that Laura is my client, or that Chad is my client. And I want to know that I can pick up the phone on a Saturday and call them on a cell phone. That's a relationship. And yeah. I would rather have a limited number of those relationships, less than 100. I've kind of put this number on my mind at this stage of my life. I don't want complexity more than 100. But to have a relationship with 100 people on a personal level, where your mentor or your guide is personally connected to you and your struggles and your, the things that you face, that to me is really what we can do. Is we can provide that level of self-confidence, and we can guide people to a level of self-confidence that they can teach others. And if we can spread self-confidence and spread the methodology of chaos, slow it down, come to clarity, come to simplicity, compress it and accelerate it. If we can preach that model, and they can, our clients can spread that around the world in their area. Big ideas start small with a few people, and I know we're going to have huge impact because we already are.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, for me, yeah, it's just that achieve business clarity. Like, if you can achieve business clarity, like, everything becomes easy after. Everything becomes simple after that. And for me, that's actually really simple. Like, it's, I guess, full circle. The old magic trick: just make things disappear.
Watch my hand. Oh, is this your wallet?
Pull what you want out of the hat. And this is the thing: most people aren't they aren't willing to slow down enough to pull what they want out of the hat.
So it's that business of achieving clarity. The one thing that I always start with when I meet a new client for the first time and they're telling me about their business and what they do and what they make and all that kind of stuff, how they do it, how long they've been in business, how big their factory is, all that kind of stuff, all the usual stuff that mean nothing, blah, 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 right? My first question to them is, what's your exit plan? And they go, what do you mean? And I go, what's your exit plan? What do you mean exit? I said, well, your big exit is you're going to die. But what's your intermediate exit? What's your exit plan from your business?
Yeah.
Well, I never thought about it. Well, that's why you have complexity in your life, because you don't know where you're going.
Yeah.
If you don't know where you're sailing, if you don't know where you're headed to, any shiny object is going to be an opportunity.
Yeah.
But if you can look at that and say, how is this opportunity going to move me toward or away from my big exit? You've just gone a huge way to clarifying and simplifying your decision-making process.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, Mark, we will wrap it up there for today, but I think we continue this conversation on, where to in 2021. And we're going to do that Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yes, we will.
That'll be even better.
It will be right around the corner.
It is right around the corner.
Well, you have a great rest of the weekend for you in Australia, and I'm just starting mine here this evening, and we'll see how we go. And then we'll pick this up on Tuesday.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
All right, cheers.